A year out, Joe Biden is in trouble. Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff, and this is Plain English, where JR and I help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. Today is Monday, November 6th, 2023. On Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, Americans will go to the polls to elect not a new president, but probably an old president. And that person will probably be either Joe Biden, the 81-year-old incumbent, or Donald Trump, his 77-year-old predecessor. And if Biden wants to hold on to his office, he has some real work to do in the next 365 days or so, and you'll hear why in today's main story. In the second half of today's Plain English, you'll hear what it means to play into someone's hands, and we have a quote of the week. This is lesson number 622, so you can find the free transcript at plainenglish.com/622. That is all thanks to JR. Let's get started. Joe Biden, a Democrat, is almost 3 years into his first 4-year term as President of the United States. He is running for re-election in 2024, and his most likely opponent is Donald Trump. In the last election, Biden won 51% of all votes against Trump's 47%, but polls show them tied in a rematch. America's presidential elections are not as simple as who wins the most votes nationwide, but this is still very concerning for Biden. A year out, he is in real trouble. Let's take a look at the challenges he faces on his road to re-election. First, his age. Biden is going to turn 81 in a few weeks. If he wins a second term, he would begin that second term at age 82 and end it potentially at age 86. He is already the oldest president we have ever had, and his age is becoming a factor. He doesn't have the same energy in public that he once had. He has fallen in public a few times. 3/4 of American voters think he's too old to serve. Trump, for his part, continually hammers Biden for being too old and for being mentally unfit for office. Biden is not a vigorous campaigner. He doesn't hold huge rallies like Trump does, and he's not out there meeting voters, shaking hands, and building support. That's just not his style. But if he's not careful, Biden risks playing into Trump's hands. Yes, he's old and he has some physical limitations, but he needs to get out there and show voters that he's up for the job. Next, the economy. This is often the most important. Some even say it's the only factor that determines whether presidents get re-elected. Biden can point to several wins on the economic front. Inflation has come down. He and his party have passed major investments in green technology and infrastructure, unemployment is at a record low. Just one problem: the economy doesn't feel good to the average voter. Yes, inflation has come down, but when inflation comes down, prices don't come down, they just stop increasing as quickly. And wages have not always grown as fast as prices. So many people feel like they've had a net decrease in income. What's more, interest rates are now much higher. So buying a house or buying a car is more difficult. So while Biden and his team have several big economic wins to sell to voters, voters don't always feel like they've benefited from his presidency. This may be unfair, but it is how people feel, many of them. Illegal immigration is Donald Trump's biggest issue. It is a huge vote getter on the right today. The tragic thing is, solutions don't win votes. Problems do. The flow of migrants across the southern border with Mexico is at a crisis level. Courts and public services are struggling to keep up with the flow of new arrivals. A president can't solve major issues like this without the support of Congress, so this is a shared responsibility. Still, Biden and his administration have taken steps to make the asylum process more orderly and humane. And in this, they have succeeded somewhat, and they should get credit for the progress they have made. But the result is more people crossing the border, not fewer. For Biden, the worst part is that this looks like vindication for Trump. This looks, and I am only talking about how this looks. This looks like Trump was right to build barriers and impose harsh emergency policies at the border, and that's pulling Biden's support down. Biden faces other challenges in the next year. He'll have to maintain support for the aid the U.S. is sending to Ukraine, and there are already rumblings in Congress about whether this is a good idea or not. And he has a delicate balancing act in the Middle East. He has pledged support for Israel in its war with Hamas, but that could turn unpopular depending on how harshly Israel conducts its response. In public, Democrats express confidence that Biden can defeat Trump a second time. Many presidents suffer a slump in their third year before going on to win re-election. But still, I think Democrats have reason to be worried. After the 2020 election and its ugly aftermath, Donald Trump seemed politically dead. But now he's back and tied with Biden in some national polls. If Biden wants to prevent a second Trump presidency, then he and his team have a lot of work to do in the next 365 days. A lot can happen in a year, and no president has an easy path to re-election. There are always big challenges. Trump has spent the last 3 years making public appearances and criticizing Joe Biden. Biden has been busy with his job. So there is still a year of campaigning left, and Trump obviously has his own problems. He has multiple trials scheduled between now and Election Day. So it's not time to panic, but if you thought there's no way Trump could return to the White House, then this is your wake-up call. Here's a quote for you this week. It's from a former king of Thailand, Bhumibol Adulyadej. He said, "We must use the wrath of nature as our teacher." Wrath is like anger. So the wrath of nature is things like earthquakes, floods, storms, fires, things like that. We must use the wrath of nature as our teacher, says the former king of Thailand, Bhumibol Adulyadej. Now I'm going to show you what it means to play into someone's hands. We use this phrase when there are two rivals. They are in a competition. And in a strategic competition, you sometimes want the other side to do something. You want them to do something so that you can take further advantage later. So let's say you're playing chess. You can move a pawn, a relatively unimportant piece. You can move a pawn to a place where your opponent can easily capture it. You want your opponent to capture that pawn. Why? Because you want your opponent to move a valuable piece into that square. So now let's say your opponent falls for your trick and he takes the pawn just like you wanted him to do. He has played into your hands because now you are set up to take his bishop or his rook or whatever. He did what you wanted him to do so that you could take advantage in the competition. He played into your hands. So the person who plays into someone's hands, that person is the loser in the interaction. Here's the situation. You apply for a job and the employer wants to hire you. Great news. Now, the HR office just has a quick question for you. Really just a formality, not a big deal. Just answer this one thing and then we can wrap this all up. Can you just tell us your current salary? Oh, sure, you say. No problem. Here you go. And you tell them. If you do that, you are playing into their hands. They want to know the number so that they can make you an offer that is best for them. If you tell them your current salary, then you're giving the other side the advantage. You are playing into their hands. In today's story, we talked about Joe Biden's re-election campaign and some of the challenges he faces. The man is about to turn 81 years old. Biden doesn't spend much time at huge rallies. He doesn't shake a lot of voters' hands. He can't jump up onto a stage like he once could. Trump is only 3 years younger than Biden, but Trump is still really good on stage. He doesn't look 77. And Trump is pounding Biden day in and day out, saying Biden is too old, too weak, and he is mentally unfit for office. And I said, unless Biden starts to make more public appearances, he risks playing into Trump's hands. He risks, meaning the danger is if he doesn't get out there, he might actually prove Trump's point. If Biden doesn't get out there and meet voters, if he doesn't show some energy, if he doesn't make his case, then what are voters going to think? They're going to think Trump is right. They're going to think that maybe Biden might not be up for the job. And so my opinion is that if Biden doesn't get out of his comfort zone, if he doesn't start interacting more with real people, then he will play into Trump's hands. He will hand Trump a win on the issue of age. New topic. I don't understand soccer. I don't understand the tactics or the terminology. But as I was scanning the headlines for play into someone's hands, I saw a lot of soccer examples. So I'm just going to read you a sentence. I have no idea what this means. Here we go. Milan's tactics played into the hands of Inter, as Inter didn't have to change their formation to pick up the players. No clue what that means, just that Milan did what Inter wanted in the competition, and Inter benefited from it. Milan played into Inter's hands. And that's all for today's Plain English. Now, if you are a soccer fan, you have a great opportunity. If you're a member of Plain English Plus, then you know that right below the transcript, there is a practice area. And you can practice writing your own sentences with play into someone's hands. And I will read the examples and give you feedback on your writing just like I always do. Now, if you're a member, you already know that that's one of the benefits of being a Plus member. Anyway, your opportunity is to write as many soccer-related examples as possible so that I can start to understand a little more. Now, if you're not a soccer fan, that's okay. You can write an example about anything you want. But if you know about soccer, then I would challenge you to write an example of play into someone's hands about that topic. Now, coming up on Thursday's Plain English, Taylor Swift and American football are getting serious. See you then.